All right. Welcome to the April Arc Server Forum for 2026. Thank you all for joining us. We really appreciate all of the exciting attendance so far this year, a lot more engagement than previous years. And for folks that haven't been able to attend some of these calls, all of the calls actually end up getting recorded and are posted on YouTube, typically in 2 to 3 weeks after the server forums. And we also have blog posts that summarize all of the different sign-up links. So, for example, we had a bunch of preview opportunities, a bunch of feedback opportunities last time in the Arc Server Forum. So if you go to the Azure Arc blog on Tech Community, you're going to be able to find out more of that information, and you're going to be able to sign up for all of those links just because we know it's not always possible to attend synchronously. But we do love folks that are able to attend on time and provide direct feedback and engagement with us in the product group. With that, I wanted to start off and speak a little bit about just our agenda for today. We're going to have Megan present mainly for today about three major topics: essential machine management, including some of the public preview and feedback capabilities, a new capability we're exploring around AI on bringing your own Kubernetes. This is a little bit outside of just the core server management capabilities, but we wanted to share this. And then finally, extending the multi-cloud connector. There's some exciting updates there as well that Megan will be sharing. With that, I wanted to actually start off level setting with some of our agent upgrades. As we've reminded you time and time again, we highly recommend onboarding to the auto agent upgrade capability and doing your best to stay on the latest and greatest Azure Arc Server agent version. With Agent 1.63, our most recent Arc agent release, there were a number of bug fixes around extension packager, around parsing errors, etc., around improvements with some of the failures with our onboarding messages, HIMDS, and error messages, as well as bundling of some of the advanced PowerShell versions and compliance reporting as well. And then there were some modifications with adding the TLS validation to the AZCM agent check, making sure the Arc proxy is using SSL endpoints for communicating to HIMDS, and adding the BIOS serial number to some of the detected properties with the Azure Arc connected machine agent. Additionally, improving some of the timeout and retry logic with identity and getting re-onboarded to our Arc-enabled server. So all of this is to say, we have a number of bug fixes, security fixes, improvements with every single Azure Arc agent version. So it really serves you to be on the latest and greatest Arc version. And that's easier than ever, especially with the auto agent upgrade capability that just reached public preview. So you can sign up for that as well. So with that wrap in terms of some of our major agent upgrade information, I'm going to invite Megan, who I believe is on the call, to share a little bit more about essential machine management and the rest of our topics for today. So take it away, Megan. Thank you so much for joining.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for having me, Arnav, and thank you, everyone. My name is Megan McCrory, and I am a PM on the Azure Arc team, and I'm excited to talk through a couple different topics today. So it's a little bit of different topics, so bear with me. But the first one is essential machine management. Just to give a high level, I know we've presented to this forum before on essential machine management, but we wanted to call out that we are now inside of our public preview. And so with that public preview, we now have the ability to have centralized onboarding. So when you go to the enrollment for essential machine management, you select your subscription, and then really that will, once you select your subscription, all of the Arc servers and your Azure virtual machines will be enrolled to the set of services. And so these set of services include Azure monitoring, machine configuration, Azure Update Manager, and change tracking and inventory. And so basically we have some pre-configured settings for these given services. And when you enroll, we go ahead and set those up so you get out of box value right when you enroll. And then any new machines that get deployed inside of your subscription in the future automatically get enrolled as well. So you already have this value for any sort of net new Arc servers or Azure virtual machines. We want to call out though that right now it's a great time to try it out, because during this preview period, it is free for everyone to use at no additional cost. On the Azure virtual machine side, these services are free today. So like this isn't going to cost any additional money from the Azure virtual machine side. But for Arc servers in the future, we do plan to price this at $9 per server per hour. and or sorry, $9 per server per month, not per hour. But basically, this will be if you already have software assurance, ESUs, Azure Local, then this will also be at no additional cost. So yeah, definitely check it out. I will note that the log ingestion rates for change tracking and inventory are charged separately. We are looking to see how we can potentially make that easier for customers, and even include that into this base price. But for now, though, that's the only sort of separate charge outside of that $9 once billing begins. But right now, during this initial preview period, it is free. So go ahead, try it out. Let us know if you've got any feedback. We basically have two links here. One is for the EMM blog, and then one is for the EMM feedback links. We can throw these in the chat window as well, so you guys can fill these out. But then too, just in case you haven't seen it, I will showcase the portal really quick so you can sort of see where this is at if you want to go and enroll and try it during this free period. So if you actually are in the search bar here and you search for compute infrastructure, we are inside of the compute infrastructure hub because again, this supports both virtual machines and Arc enabled servers. And so you can see on the infrastructure, here's all of my Azure VMs, here's all of my Arc machines. And then under this monitoring and operations, this is where you will see essential machine management. So this is where you will actually go to enroll your subscription. And it's really easy. All you have to do is select your subscription, select your user assigned manage identity, select your workspaces. We have the option for you to add additional Defender plans if you would like to go ahead and sort of have this as an add-on option. This is priced separately from EMM itself. But then you review and enable. And then after that, this is all set for you. It's all policy driven. So we basically have an Azure policy that it goes and applies the necessary settings and extensions to be installed. But this is something that's just really nice, an easy way for you to get started with the set of management services for both your virtual machine state and your Azure estate. Or I'm sorry, Azure Virtual Machine Estate and your Arc Server estate. But with that, I do have just one question that I'd like to pose to the community, but maybe before then, if there's any, I'm gonna look at the chat really quick here. So for the $9 per month per server include that includes all of so like those base rates for update manager, machine config, change tracking and inventory. So how you have to pay those rates whenever you enable it for an Arc server, that now is all gone. And so you're no longer going to pay separately for update manager and for change tracking inventory, for instance. This is now $9 if you use this bundle. So we're basically bundling these services together in not only a single onboarding experience, but now a single price point. And of course, if you have, let's say, Windows Server software assurance, then you get this at no additional cost as well. So that is correct, John. It is free for you to use through this. Does the free pricing target only Windows OS? As of now, yes. We are working with other Linux partnerships, though, so stay tuned for news in the future if this is going to go broader than on the Windows side. For Matthew Jones, is this the successor to AutoManage? Yeah, we've definitely evolved in our thinking, and we've took a lot of the learnings from AutoManage and we sort of applied those. And I think one of the biggest ones is that simplified pricing. And two, we leveraging sort of Azure policy in the back end is really sort of how we evolved. A lot of the learnings from AutoManage came through as we evolved into EMM. But great. So when will the features land in Azure Gov? This is one where we would love the feedback. Right now, it's sort of in our backlog to extend. Right now, we're only in prod or global Azure. But maybe, Joseph, I can follow up with you if you've got, if you or customers are interested in this, we can definitely sort of see if this is something that we can look to prioritize. But it's all going to be about sort of feedback and how much we think the appetite is. We're sort of starting though in the production Azure regions and seeing how it works. We just went public preview here last week. So we're getting feedback now. And then after we sort of get that initial set of feedback, that's when we'll look to potentially expand. But would love to understand sort of what that footprint might look like from your sides. Awesome. And then it seems like the links are not live. Thank you, Rich. Let's see. The EMM blog listed on the screen. The links are not live. Oh, gotcha. Yep. Thank you so much, Finn, for posting those. I really appreciate it. I should have shared this live so you could actually click it. And then let me grab the last question. So from Tony, Tony says, for those of us monitoring our hybrid environments with alternate tooling, would we be able to easily customize or disable the automatic alerts when enabling Azure Monitor? Great question, Tony. So right now, like through the EMM experience, when you're going in onboarding, we go ahead and we pre-configure these recommended alerts. And the way that this is done is really through Azure policy. And so if you did really want to change the settings for those recommended alerts, rather than sort of doing it through the EMM experience, which is just sort of these recommended settings, you could go and update that policy. But yeah, I would be happy to sort of chat more with you if you wouldn't mind, like if you're interested in filling in that feedback link, the EMM feedback survey, I would absolutely love to chat with you and just see if this is something that we might want to create some type of experience around and learn more about your scenario. But awesome. Any other questions? And feel free to come off of mute as well if there is anything else. The Azure Arc machines are not under a subscription, so how do we include those? When you Arc enable, you pick your sort of your Azure subscription and resource group. And so let me know, Heather, if you're not seeing that. But basically, when you go and enroll, you should see your Azure Arc machines inside of your Azure subscription. But yeah, interested if you're hitting any issues. All right. So with that, let me go ahead and quickly, one thing I'd love to get feedback from this group on is resource exclusion. So we did hear from a handful of customers that EMM is great, and I love the simplified enrollment at the subscription level. However, with that subscription level enrollment, there's maybe a couple VMs that are more dev test that I might not want all of these management services on, or maybe they're more short-lived, so I don't necessarily need them to be turned on. And so what we are thinking about is do we actually want to be able to sort of allow customers to exclude machines? So whenever you go and let's say I want to enroll Megan's subscription, but I want to exclude, machine A from being able to enroll inside of EMM. So this is something that our team is investigating right now. And with this, though, we're sort of going through the different flows where should customers just provide a list of machines that they wish to exclude, and they can always update this list, or input like resource groups within the subscription to fully exclude, or do customers want sort of a tag-based approach where they can actually say, anything tag with an environment dev test, let's just exclude those from being enrolled inside of essential machine management. And so I am kind of curious. I created a poll here. Let me see if I can grab it. So I'm going to go ahead and launch this poll. It's basically a stack ranking poll where I want to understand if you would like us to enforce exclusions inside of Essential Machine Manager. If you wouldn't mind sort of ranking the options and submitting it, that would be great. So to know if we should sort of prioritize, actual machine names, or should we prioritize excluding full resource groups, or should we do Azure tags? And so, yeah, and if you want to come off of mute and give any live feedback, would love to hear it. Yeah, go ahead, Amin.
Hey, good afternoon. Quick question when it comes to excluding. So I had a couple of scenarios. For example, you see a lot of customers that have on one machine, they might have the SQL Server engine, they might have SSIS, or they might have SSRS. And we all know, most of the time it's just the engine. So I had scenarios where customers like, okay, when the server was Arc enabled, we can see all of them, but three of the instance that Arc shows should not be, for example, I think we were trying to calculate or have just a count of their SQL Server engine. Would this exclusion uh, technique or option that you provide will also include those type of scenario or not? Thank you.
Yeah, and so are you so sorry, Elamine, but make me let's make sure I understand. And so basically you have a set of SQL servers that are Arc connected, but you want to potentially exclude some of the SQL servers from being Arc connected, is that right?
No, I have a single server that is Arc enabled, but that server has multiple instances of different
SQL.
things. So he has SQL Server as the engine install, but the customer also went in the settings and enable SSRS or another service that is part of the install, but it cannot be Arc enable. All we can really Arc enable at this time, I believe, is the engine. So they do not want it to see those other instance, which is the SSRS and SSIS being showing in the dashboard or being counted or wanted to exclude those instances. So it's more
Got
instance level inside of one server, if that makes sense.
Hey Megan, I can help direct that question
Thanks, Jeff.
internally. So I'll take care of you. Thanks so much.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeff. So yeah, Jeff will work
Thank you.
and get you help here. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Mhm.
Awesome. So just looking at the chat here as well, what happens if I have the Azure policies with configurations of Defender, log analytics, change tracking already set up? Yeah, so if we detect that your machine already has like this extensions already installed, then we just bypass that. And so we won't touch your existing settings. But you can still leverage EMM to get the pricing benefits and just make sure that any net new machines get onboarded. But if you already have an existing service that is enrolled, then we don't mess with those services. We currently have some Arc-enabled servers set up with SA, but a large chunk are not. I was under the impression if you're not using Azure Update Manager or Best Practice Assessment, the basic features were free. Yeah, so if services, if you've got machines that don't have software assurance, and you start leveraging these management services like Update Manager, change tracking, inventory, monitoring, there is going to be associated costs to these. There are features that are free from the platform, like governance with tagging and inventory and policy and whatnot. But these specific services that we're talking about within Essential Machine Management are billable, are billed. So yeah, let us know though, Andrew, if you've got any other questions. And regarding to the exclusions, it would be nice to have the dynamic scoping. So like AUM, where you can sort of do by OS RG7 tags. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that's good to know, Matthew. Thanks for that feedback. All right. And thank you everyone for submitting the poll as well. We'll definitely take a look at this and keep everyone posted here on the updates for EMM, and I'll be sure to get to the rest of the questions here after we go through the other topics. Let me just maybe answer this last one. Would it be possible to leverage EMM to reconfigure new DCR workspaces? That's a good question. Today it wouldn't work like that, but I could see something in the future. It would be nice if you wanted to sort of override existing settings to be compliant with sort of the recommended Microsoft settings that we would apply for these. So yeah, great question, Tony. At this point, the answer is no, but yeah, I would love to learn more about that scenario. If you wouldn't mind doing the feedback survey, and we can definitely chat more. I can see how that could be useful. Awesome. All right. Well, with that, we can sort of move on to the next topic here. This is basically our team is really looking at how we can help customers run AI workloads across their sort of hybrid estate. And so one thing that we're sort of understanding is, for customers who have environments that, maybe they have sites, maybe they have their own data centers, whatever it might be, how can we sort of leverage your infrastructure to be able to run AI workloads really seamlessly? And so we're sort of thinking about different scenarios here. And a lot of the current thinking is all sort of around Kubernetes because we're sort of integrating with Foundry. And today Foundry sort of runs all of their services on top of Kubernetes. But again, if you do have AI scenarios that are even like server based, we're very interested in this as well. Please fill out the survey here. I will also see if I can paste this link inside the chat window. Oops, that was the wrong one, but I will grab this link and then we'll go from there. But basically what we're thinking about for this scenario to begin with, as we look at extending it outside of the Kubernetes offering, one is just the ability to sort of add custom targets to Foundry. And so if you're looking at going and deploying a model today, if you're trying to do this through Microsoft Foundry sort of hosts everything for you. But this is where we're thinking about, if you want to actually deploy this model on premises to your own infrastructure, how can we enable you to go and do that? And so the first sort of part is registering your infrastructure with Microsoft Foundry and how we can do that with Azure Arc. So that's sort of the step one. The step two is once this you have your now infrastructure registered as a deployment target, your AI engineers or you can basically say, okay, I want to deploy this model and this agent that I have built in sort of Foundry, and I want to deploy it out to my environments that are on-prem, or it could even be Azure AKS. It doesn't matter. Basically, you can register sort of these Kubernetes clusters wherever, and hopefully in the future we can even do this with servers and so on. And then sort of after you sort of do this testing and deployment, the next sort of step is that you can even potentially like bundle this together. So you can say, okay, now that I've got my AI application working on my test infrastructure, let me now package it. I want to have my models, I want to have my agents, I want to have my workflows, dependencies, my data sources, and then I want to be able to package all of that together, version it, and then deploy it at scale to my entire environment. So I can say, okay, go deploy to clusters A and B, and then once I prove that works, go to clusters C through Z. And so that's sort of what we're thinking about here for this scenario. This is all in the investigation phase of just how we're thinking about it based off of conversations that we've had with customers so far. But we would love to chat more with you if you're trying to do this, or if you're already running AI workloads on-prem and you've got thoughts around this, or if you want to see more details into what we're thinking. We're trying to build out prototypes right now. We would love to connect with you. And so please fill out this survey. I will throw it in the chat window here if I can grab the link. There we go. And apologies for not presenting in the live mode. But basically, we would love to talk to you. So let me see here if I've got just a couple questions. Yeah, Fabio wants to know if there's anyone that has experience deploying AI agents to Arc-enabled infrastructure. Yeah, and so this is where I don't know if anyone on the call does, but again, if you're even looking at doing this, we would love to talk to you, Fabio, if you've got any interests. So fill out that survey if you can. And then Jeff, any thoughts on using Arc to assess on-prem Kubernetes to help plan a migration to AKS? Yeah, that's really interesting. So basically how you can do, it's almost like a migration scenario. How can I evaluate this Kubernetes cluster and then move it to AKS? I don't know, Arnav or others on the call, if Migrate team has anything here for like Kubernetes to AKS, but correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I'm not aware of anything on this front, but we
Yeah.
can follow up on this for the next call.
Yep, that makes sense. One thing that's great though is with the AI offering for this too is once you sort of register your Kubernetes environments to the service that we're looking at building, we can actually understand the capacity constraints of that Kubernetes cluster. So we know, okay, this is you have 3 GPU or 4 GPUs. So these models are the ones that will work for you. These are the ones that will not. So we even try to do some type of validation that what you try to deploy on your Kubernetes clusters will actually be able to run based off of the model and the agent requirements. Awesome. So that's all I've got for the AI scenario. Let me see here. If there's any other questions, feel free to throw them in the chat or to come off of mute. All right. So our last topic for today is extending the multi-cloud connectors. And so I know that Mason has presented to this community in the past around creating a connector to the Microsoft Endpoint Configuration Manager, or SCCM, where basically we're trying to connect your SCCM or config manager environments back to Azure so you get inventory. You could also do monitoring as well as like full-scale management. And so this is something that our team is looking at building, but we're also just wondering what resonates when it comes to a customer experience for this. And so with this, let me just switch over to the portal view. And so today, if you're inside of the Azure portal and you go to Azure Arc, we basically have these supported environments. And so today we basically have the multi-cloud connectors offering here. And whenever we have this multi-cloud connectors, you can come through and you can see I can create an AWS connector and I can create a GCP connector. And then I can, jump into a connector and I can see like all of the different sort of solutions that I have enabled across inventory, Arc, onboarding, which is basically like that management aspect of the house. And so one thing that we're investigating is I've now moved to a prototype. And so this isn't live or anything. This is just something that we're trying to evaluate if it makes sense for customers. So similarly, if I'm here on the Azure Arc portal, I have that supported environments frame. And now I actually now just have connectors. So we're thinking about, would it make sense just to make this a little bit more generic, and rather than be multi-cloud connectors, let's just have it connectors here. And then that will actually give you this blade where I can now go and create, and I can create cloud-based connectors for AWS and GCP like we have today. But then I also have a set of what we're calling sort of the on-prem connectors. So I can connect, like we were mentioning, that config manager connector. So that MECM or SCCM connector. Maybe we'll have an Ansible connector in the future, or vMode through Windows Admin Center. And so this is just a way that we can potentially extend our environment support through the existing sort of multi-cloud world that we have today. But before we do this and before we investigate further, we want to use this community just to see if this actually makes sense or not. Does it resonate with you of this being inside like one generic connectors view that you can then have either cloud-based connectors or on-prem based connectors, or would you prefer them sort of separate? Like to you in your mind, it actually doesn't make too much sense to sort of combine these. So with that, I've got another quick poll here. I'm going to go ahead and launch it. And this is sort of where would you expect to see the Microsoft Endpoint Configuration Manager connector, and if it would be more inside of this like generic connectors tab alongside our multi-cloud connectors, or would you prefer it to be inside of, a separate experience outside of the multi-cloud connector views? So with that, if you wouldn't mind submitting this poll, that would be great. I can see here that it looks like most people are finding that it would resonate just to be in the same tab. But yeah, I would love to have feedback from anyone around this. And so for Christopher, for yours, would you move VMware and SCVMM to that as well? That's a good question. at this point, I think the question's maybe like what actually makes sense to you guys? Would it make sense to move those into this generic connector blade? Awesome. And sorry, I'm looking here as well. Is there a test environment with multi-cloud setup? Yeah, definitely reach out to me, Sam, and we can definitely see if we can get you set up. Rich thinks bundling all connectors into one blade makes sense, and maybe that's even across like the VMware vCenters and SCVMM. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, Kato. All right. Well, that was honestly it for this one. This was one that we're working on as we move here.
Hey, Megan, quick question. So
Yeah.
I love this idea, but is this eventually going to replace a Windows Admin Center kind of an environment, like where we can also do some sort of a remote connectivity using those connectors, or what is the thought here?
Yeah, and I'm wondering, Mason, are you on? Do you want to give just a quick overview, at least, of what we're thinking for the config manager connector, and then we can kind of think about if there's other areas that we're exploring. I know, like with vMode or vMode, we were thinking more of like Windows Admin Center integration. I don't know, Mason or Nitin, if you guys want to give more insights onto this one.
Yeah, hi Megan, I'm here. So
Awesome.
from a config management perspective, at the moment, it's all about getting that connected inventory, all that inventory and metadata from config manager into the Azure control plane. That's our first goal. And then how customers might manage and migrate or transition from just connected inventory into a fully agent configured end devices. So that's the first state. If there is a desire to go into that other area, please give us that feedback and we can investigate if that is in fact the path forward for the long term. Hopefully that answers your question.
Awesome. Thank you, Mason. Let us know if there's any follow-ups. Awesome. Any other questions? I know Jeff said, love the look. When is it coming? All a prototype. Stay tuned. Awesome. Well, with that, thank you all for your feedback. Again, we really appreciate this community. This is one that we really to get sort of quick feedback on areas before we get too deep. So I would just want to thank you guys for joining and for bearing with me as we went through three very separate topics, but all of this has been extremely useful. And I just want to say thank you to everybody. But with that, Arnav, I think that's it for my content. Is there anything else or any other thing on the agenda?
Nope, that's all for today. Really appreciate everyone dialing in and have a great rest of your day. We're looking forward to welcoming folks back for our next forum in May again. So thanks everyone, and thank you, Megan, for sharing all those new capabilities on the roadmap as well.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.